Welcome, family. Good evening, and welcome to Beyond the Gatekeepers. I am Bishop-elect Vanessa M. Brown, and I'm your host and moderator for this evening. And we have a great show in store for you on tonight. But before we get to that, we like to find out where you're from. So please let us know where you are watching from. Shout it out on Facebook. Greetings to Facebook, our Facebook family. Greetings to our YouTube family. Greetings to our Twitter family. Thank you for being here with us on tonight. We're excited. We ask that you share and let folks know that we're on, because there's a great show that we have in store for you on tonight. We're so grateful for your presence. And so I'm going to try to be looking at both pages tonight to see in terms of Facebook who else is on. I see you all. I see you, Dr. Ralph Basui Watkins. Thank you for joining us tonight. So glad to see Quentin L. Robertson. These people are on the Beyond the Gatekeepers page. Chunk Hut, we're so grateful for you, Lisa. And coming from Monroe, Louisiana, Atlanta, Georgia, Raleigh, North Carolina, and Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. They're all representing us on tonight. We have a Connecticut here representing. So glad. I see you, Renee Vickers. Far Rockaway is in the house. Far Rockaway, New York. New Jersey is here. I see you, Monique. Thank you for being on tonight. Durham, North Carolina is in the house. Pittsburgh, California is here with us tonight. Troy, North Carolina is here with us tonight. Oh, this is so good. I'm so happy. Louisville, Kentucky is here with us on tonight. Yes, they are from everywhere. Ellenwood, Georgia is here. Boston, Massachusetts is here. La Jolla, California is here. Yes. Represent y'all. Keep letting us know where you're from. We are grateful to have you here on with us tonight. We ask that you share, so that everyone can be a part of this great conversation. I want to make sure that we get people on and that we are sharing it on YouTube. We are sharing it on whatever social media that we're on Twitter. Please share and let people know that this is going to be a great conversation. Somebody said, what conversation is that? Tonight we have Dr. Thema Bryant, and she is the author of Homecoming: Overcome Fear and Trauma to Reclaim Your Whole Authentic Self. And she's been doing great work. I am so grateful that I had the opportunity to get in touch with her and that she gave us a yes. She's just been made president-elect of the association, I believe, of their American therapists. Over 100,000 people, 200,000 people uh, in that role of hers. And so, Dr. Thema, please come and greet our audience tonight. Just give them a hello.
Hello, so good to be with you all. Peace and blessings. I am in gratitude for the opportunity to join you all for your conversation.
Thank you so much, Dr. Thema. Of course, we cannot move along on tonight without Bishop Yvette A. Flunder. She is our presiding prelate of the Fellowship of Affirming Ministries and also the senior pastor of over 30 years of City of Refuge United Church of Christ in Oakland, California. Bishop Flunder, will you come and greet the people on tonight?
Well, good evening, everyone. Have I successfully unmuted myself?
Yes, ma'am.
I am so technologically proud of myself in this moment. It is my joy not only to have it with us, Dr. Thema, but also to have an opportunity to spend some time talking about trauma and talking about what our present time, what kind of effect is it having on us psychologically, physically, spiritually, mentally, financially, and a sort of laundry list of things. And how can we prepare for the inevitability that it might become even more complicated than it is now, which suggests that we need professionals like Dr. Thema to help us do some inner work so that we can be prepared for the inevitability, so that we can be internally and spiritually, thoughtfully, and even I would venture to say financially prepared for what is the inevitability that's to come. And there are things that came up, tools for moving and dealing with drama, because it's gonna be drama. It already is. If nothing else than the testimony that's gone before Congress in the House in the last few days. Drama, tools to overcome between and before the next calamity, because it will come and it will happen. And constantly being taken off guard, constantly surprised, finding out that your chest, your war chest, your chest of good things, the chest that would get you ready, is not properly fortified. So we have someone here tonight that can talk to us about what we are experiencing, how to be helped, and how to prepare. It is my great joy to be in the company of Dr. Thema. Help us out, sister. God bless you. What a joy to have you here.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Thema. And really quickly, I wanted to make mention, because I did not, that Dr. Thema is an ordained minister in the African
And
Methodist Episcopal
Methodist.
Church,
Mhm.
AME Church.
Yes.
And so I wanted to make sure that I said that for all of our listeners on today. And also just to shout out Houston, Texas, and Columbus, Ohio, and all of the places that people are showing up, Riverdale, Georgia. We're so grateful for your presence on tonight and supporting the show. Dr. Thema, Homecoming. I just had to go through pretty much the entire book. And it's just been a complete blessing from the first page of your introduction, when you talk about the chicken and the eagle. And I can tell you that I heard that story before from Bishop Flunder.
Yes.
Right. So whenever I got myself in a pickle or whatever, she always used to say, "Why are you on the ground plucking with chickens?" And but I read the whole entire story and to hear how it went. And really, in essence, that story is the entryway into how people are coming back to themselves, right? Because the eagle didn't know that he was an eagle.
Right.
Right? He thought he was a chicken because he was around chickens. He was doing things that chickens did. And even the man that had the farm believed that he was a chicken.
Yes.
But he had to, this somebody that was an animal expert said, this is not a chicken. This is an eagle. And I'm going to show you that this is an eagle.
That's
and so it was so powerful, the story that introduces this whole entire book. And so you tell us why you wrote the book, but I want you to tell the people that are here tonight.
Absolutely. So I am a pastor's daughter, which later became a bishop's daughter. And growing up, my parents were very intentional about imparting the necessity of empowering our people, right? That not only love of God, but love of community. And so, as I felt the calling to go into psychology, I was also very clear that there are major gaps or barriers in getting the information to our people. And we know that knowledge is power and we perish for lack of knowledge. And so I have consistently, I graduated with my doctorate in 2000. So over the past 20 years have looked at not only how do I share the information as a professor or with my clients as a practitioner, but how do we get it to our people wherever they are? And so doing that, I'm at First AME Church in Los Angeles and lead our mental health ministry. And then doing that with disseminating the quotes and nuggets through social media. And about two and a half years ago, I was at a conference that Bishop Vashti McKenzie was having called Selah. And it's for, women of faith in various leadership positions. And sitting there, I was inspired to start the Homecoming podcast. Because when I put out the quotes in social media, people often reply with, but how, right? Social media is like one sentence, two sentences, three, it's catchy, but the how, right? And so I was trying to figure out the format to share more. And so I've been doing the podcast and weekly sharing information about depression, about dissociation, about anxiety, about healthy and unhealthy relationships, and wanted to be able to put that information together in a tool that people could utilize. And so that's the reason for the format of the book. And I want to say I have written academic books before, and I rarely talk about them within our community because you all know they make textbooks so expensive. I'm embarrassed to even tell people. I don't even want them to go see because the price is so high. Often it's out of range. So I was so fortunate to be able to write a book and say the resource is available for $20. So I hope that, and even some people have written me that they convinced their library to order it so they could check it out at the library. But trying to make it so that people can get the information because we want to be made whole.
That's so powerful. I'm going to bring Bishop Flunder in 1 second, but you talk and you have different chapters. And so I can tell you now that, the last chapter, not just the last chapter, but the last chapter on resisting oppression jumped out at me. You talk about, all kinds of oppression. You talk about discrimination. You talk about LGBTQI oppression, which I just want to say thank you for naming it, right? Yes. Thank you for, I was like, she names it. This is good. You know what I mean? So many other things that you speak about. And so can we talk a little bit about that chapter?
Right. It's so important to name it. And in the book, I give different case examples and, It includes clients who are non-binary, clients who are in same-gender loving marriages. And it's important that people see themselves, that we see ourselves reflected in something that's supposed to be for us. If the resource is for community, then it's important not to be silent about who all is in the community, right? And the piece about oppression and mental health, it is so devastating, but because oppression in all of its forms is so pervasive, people often don't recognize the impact, right? Because we say like racism is everywhere, heterosexism is everywhere, classism is everywhere. So because it is everywhere, people often don't really take in the weight of the ways it has affected us. And it's important to name, that we have our, your lived experience is one important part of how we gain knowledge. But we also have research that, shows experiences of oppression connected with depression, with anxiety, with anger, with distrust, and then something called somatic complaints, where the stress shows up in our bodies, right? Migraines and nausea and backache. And I like to say there's a lot of backache in our community, right? What is it we are carrying? And often it is those experiences that are unknown, or the gaslighting where people act like it's not a big deal or that it's not happening. And it's very harmful. So that naming of it helps us to have more compassion for ourselves, right? Of course, we would struggle with issues of insecurity or fear. Of course, we would have difficulty letting down our armor. And when I'm training future psychologists, I tell them, if someone comes into session and they have their arms crossed, their legs crossed, purse in the lap, coat buttoned up, and they keep looking at the door, looking at the clock, I don't take that personally, of course, right? You don't know me. So we have to have more compassion for ourselves and each other to understand the toxicity, the poison that bombards us from when we are still in our parents' wombs, and even before that, when people talk about ancestral wounds, right? That we're carrying stuff that predates us as well.
That's excellent. Bishop Flunder, that chapter on resisting oppression, you can say so much about it.
It brings up many, 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 many things. But I think in particular, the energy that was put into the church of my youth and so many others who were a part of what we call Black church and or conservative church is another way, I think, to describe our experience. And whether you were a Baptist or Methodist or Pentecostal, or even in the spiritual movements, whatever were the realities. One of the things that I think we had in consistently and in common was the ways in which we were forced to hide. Mm-hmm. It is so interesting to be forced to hide among people who are also hiding. And everyone pretty much knows that the other is hiding.
Yeah.
But we're all hiding from the hiding. We're not so much hiding from each other because we can pretty much see each other. We just act like we don't. It's sort of like the Emperor's New Clothes story that I was trained on as a child. And I remember then thinking that reminds me a lot of church. Reminds me a lot of the church-influenced African-American community, where everyone seems to be hiding, but no one is hiding. Everyone knows everybody is hiding. And the conversations in the home of preachers, and I had come from a long series of preachers, long generations of preachers, to hear the rest of the story over and over again, and then have to go to church and hide, act like you don't really know what the real situation is. And it lifted up for me that the shame that a lot of folks feel that gets given to God, the shame that says, I turn that over to God. That shame has not been dealt with. Yeah. And certainly hasn't been dismissed. And to move out of it it particularly into elder life, when you think about how much time you've lost, which is a lot of the people that I talk to now, how you could have done something with it. Because now you look around and you think about your sacrifice, and your years have been eaten up by shame. So I want to put that out there to say that books like your book, Dr. Thema, I want people to come away from reading your book feeling that whatever time they have that remains, they can live their best life. It's not too late. You don't have to feel like you have gone too far or you can't reclaim. If you're going to dance for another week, dance like you have lost your mind. I'm very sincere about that. But I think you understand what it is that I'm hearing. When I hear what it is that you are saying and Bishop-elect is saying, forced height. Forced, I call it forced. Totally unrealistic, right? Totally different than your reality. When people know that it is different from your reality, but somehow or other, we all agree that we will together force ourselves to pretend that saved people do not have nervous breakdowns. Saved people are never depressed. Saved people are not unduly angry just with the devil and stuff like that. Saved people do not self-harm. Saved people, and all the saved that we have been. It didn't stop those realities from happening because we were not able to name them. I want to thank you for doing that, and we'll talk more, but that's what comes up for me. This is freedom time.
Yes.
And we have to want to be free. And it's only the truth that makes you free. So there you have it.
And Bishop says save people, and it's interesting because if you look at some of the Barna reports and Pew reports, you see that it's a bunch of pastors that are killing themselves, right? In the church, right? Killing themselves. So to our audience, I know you all want the book. You can get the book from Amazon, but we are going to give away a book tonight. And if you put hashtag Beyond the Gatekeepers, you can be in the drawing at the end of the evening for the book. Hashtag Beyond the Gatekeepers for the free book giveaway. But for those of you that are going to purchase the book, you're going to purchase for yourself. You're going to give a gift to someone as well. Go to Amazon, and that's where you can pick up the book. Dr. Thema, I want to, I'm backtracking because I started off with the last chapter, but, the first chapter, you talk about longing for home, I need a homecoming, internal signs of disconnection, external signs of disconnection. Tell us about that first chapter, if you will.
Absolutely. So homecoming is reconnecting to your authentic self. It is telling yourself the truth and then living a life that aligns with that truth, that reflects that truth. And stress and trauma disconnect us from ourselves. They convince us that in order to be safe, in order to be acceptable, in order to be loved, in order to be respected, in order to be chosen, that we have to be something that we are not. And so we spend a lot of time pretending. And as Bishop was naming, we can lose time, look up and have lost years of our lives where we were following somebody else's script, or like I like to say, we were reciting words that don't fit in our mouths, but it's all the shoulds. And so whether those shoulds came from a childhood experience around family, whether that came from religious abuse in the church, whether that came in first experiences of sexual harassment as on the job, whatever ways it showed up that convinced you that you were unworthy, then it means we are living a life where we are going through the motions, but we are not really present. And the wonderful theologian Howard Thurman talks about doing the things that make us come alive, because far too few of us are actually alive. And so that is what we desire. And I like to be a truth teller and say, there are some people who don't want the real you. And that will reveal itself. As you heal, Some people will celebrate your homecoming, and some people will say, you changed. And the truth is, yes, I have. I reclaimed my voice. I reclaimed my wings. I reclaimed my power. And I can't just go along anymore with what has been presented. And so it takes courage. It takes safety. But anyone who makes the journey home will say it's worth it, that we are worth it, right? That each of us are worth it to finally be able to get back to truth and to wholeness instead of letting my wounds run my life.
Yes.
That's good. I'm going to let Bishop go. But the truth is, I'm no longer a chicken. I never was.
Yes.
I was always an eagle, and I could fly.
That's
I
right.
didn't know I could fly until the
know.
man took me up on top of the house and let me spread my wings. And he said, go all the way to the sun.
Yeah.
And I went all the way to the sun. And I didn't turn back. Bishop
That's
Flunder.
it.
Icarus, we can talk. But there's this question. It's a deep question. And I would love to hear from you about this too, Doctor. What are the tools in this brief moment that we have to change the world, the three of us here today? What are the tools that we can share with people to overcome between in and before the next great calamity?
Yes.
So in this present moment, what are some of the things that we can say to folks that they should look to do it or they should act upon right now before the inevitable next big calamity comes in their lives and our lives?
Yes. So one of the tools is, what I and some others have called reparenting yourself. And so many times we end up stuck in resentment about what we didn't get, right? Or what our parents got wrong or our guardians got wrong. And, parents are human. And so hopefully they got a couple of things right. And they also missed some things, right? Or even did some harmful things. And we can spend a lifetime stuck in the resentment of that and feeling fatally and eternally flawed because of what was missing. Or I can make an empowered decision that I am going to start giving myself the things I didn't get. So we start to consider what are some things that a healthy, present, capable parent does, and how do I do that for myself? So an engaged parent sets a routine and a schedule and a bedtime, right? To not have a 7-year-old up at 2 a.m. watching Netflix. So we need to go to bed, right? That rest is holy. And I'm sure you all have probably heard of the Nat Bishop, and I think her book will be coming out this year. But talking about the radical revolutionary gift of our rest. And that's so opposite for us, especially as church folks who are often praised for our busyness and for our self-sacrifice and for our martyrdom. But I like to say, follow the example of Jesus, who would heal, teach, and disappear. And they would say, where'd he go? But we have this idea to be Christ-like, that you can never go away, that you can never step away, that what about the souls, that everything will fall apart if you go lay down somewhere. But it is important for us to nourish ourselves with rest. An engaged parent is mindful when they have the financial capacity, and even those who financially struggle are mindful about what they feed their children. And so for us to say, no longer living out of vending machines and drive-throughs. As grandma would say, put some greens on that plate. That's enough soda, drink some water. Diabetes and 3 slices of cake is not going to do it anymore. And so for us to nourish ourselves, not only that, a good parent sets boundaries. They won't let their child go with just anybody. And so they ask some questions. And they don't let you go some places, and they don't let some people come to your house. So some of us, in order to be restored, need to learn the holiness of no. We think to be Christian, we have to say yes to everybody and to every request and to everything, because we don't want people to not like us or be mad at us. And if I say no to everybody else's agenda, I will be saying If I say yes to everyone else's agenda, I'm saying no to my own calling. I'm saying no to my own mental health. I'm saying no to my peace. And I used to be one of those people that would be silent and say, I'm keeping the peace. And then I had to reckon with myself, whose peace am I keeping? You know, people who are doing harmful things are very much at peace. They are at ease doing the terrible things they are doing. And so we have to be willing to shatter the silence, shatter the shame, and know the holiness of our no. So I would encourage us to think about, in this season of my life, pandemic, throughout the pandemic, how am I going to better nourish myself? And then I will say, from a liberation standpoint, we also talk about the importance of community care. So a lot of social justice oriented therapists critique kind of what they would call the overuse of self-care. That, you know, if you have a single mother of 3 and you just tell her like to light candles and, you know, listen to praise music, that is insufficient, right? So yes, candles and praise music are beautiful, and she needs a livable wage, and she needs quality health care, and she needs, you know, a number of things. And so I would argue that it's both, right? Some people say, I don't want to hear about self-care. It's all about the community. Let me say, while we're trying to build community and while we're trying to get some just policies, in the meantime, you're still going to need to do some things to nourish you while we are working for the collective. And along those lines, I would say the necessity, especially in this season, of mutual reciprocal relationships. Many of us are used to being the strong one in the church, the strong one in your family, the strong one on your job. Black women are often raised with what we call that superwoman syndrome, taking care of everybody else's needs while we neglect our own. And so in this season, instead of complaining that you're surrounded by users, to be honest enough to ask yourself, how have I participated in creating the dynamic where all of my relationships are one-sided? How have I participated in creating the illusion that I don't need anything? And so it will help us tremendously if we can have some real relationships.
Dr. Thema, you talk about racism, you talk about white supremacy, you talk about colorism in this book. The time that we are living in right now, we sitting down watching, not everybody, but, you know, the January 6th hearings. We hearing, you know, what has taken place. We've heard testimony on yesterday. Tell us, as we read this book and we try to weave through the vicissitudes of life, what do you think we should be doing right now, knowing all of those things that's going on, and plus the things you've written about already?
Yes. So I would say, from a womanist psychology perspective, the psychology of Black women, as well as an African-centered psychology perspective, that we have to enlarge the tent beyond what we usually get from Western psychology. So I'm a trauma psychologist, and I, you know, got to that out of my own life experience with multiple traumas. I'm a survivor of sexual assault. My family was evacuated from the war in Liberia. Growing up in Baltimore, there's much community violence. And so I have spent a lot of time studying trauma and helping trauma survivors. And most Western models of psychology end the healing process with coping strategies, you know, healthy versus unhealthy coping. And then they may add a part about meaning making. What do you believe that this trauma meant about you? From a liberation standpoint, we would go the extra step, which is we need resistant strategies, right? We don't want to just teach people how to lick their wounds in the aftermath of racism, you know, take a warm bath, right? So you may need that warm bath, yes, and you're deserving of it. And we want to think about, how do we advocate? How do we organize? How do we resist? And I'm one of those people that don't create a hierarchy on the ways in which people choose to resist, because we need all of it, right? Because oppression is showing up in many different forms. So if marching is what you do, then march. If running for office is what you do, if creating new policies on your job is what you do, is raising revolutionary children is what you do, if we this term artivism, use your art for activism, we need all of it. But to think actively about how do I care for my soul while I am dealing with the realities of oppression, and then how do I fight back and have consciousness raising and empowerment so that we can really shift the tide. And those, of us who've been doing the work know to anticipate the backlash. So we're not, people who are new to it get startled, like, oh no, like it didn't work, we give up. That's a part of it. When people feel themselves losing power, losing ground, they're gonna rise up, and we rise up too. That's who we come from. And so to know that our ancestry and our heritage is not just about wounds, but cultural wisdom, right? And religious wisdom. This is, what it's for. If people have been in the church their whole lives and still feel like they have never been equipped to pray, like we're in trouble, right? This is it is in the spirit and in the flesh warfare. And so learning how to do that, and to know it's not too late to learn it.
Bishop, go ahead.
So, in our work over the last 40 years or so, particularly working with communities that have been severely marginalized, and let's say marginalized by and in the church. And I want to say particularly the same gender loving community, but not just the same gender loving community, women and women's roles, capabilities that were diminished because they were women, or at least they did their work for someone else to shine, is maybe the best way for me to say it. And I watched on a number over the years, over the decades. California has been a place where people have come, LGBT people and women who are looking for a different way to live. They came to California to leave everything behind. And I mean everything. So they came to California for womanist rights, feminist rights, they were called then. Before womanist became a word that we use among us as women. They came to California, many of them who came to us as LGBT people with arts abilities and talents, gifts and skills, beautiful singers and dancers and creators and clothes designers and interior designers, and just incredible people who came to California to look for a place to be and to hide, and to become fully who it is that they were and are. And then so it sort of begs the question, and I've been wrestling with this as it relates to trauma, leaving people who hurt you and hurt you badly, and now trying to find some way to answer the question of our souls, which is, was I essentially created by the divine to make it my life's work to look for a comfortable location? Or am I created by the divine to have both the role of rest and warrior at the same time? And how do those two things connect? Because I'm finding a lot of folks that have made it a religion to rest. I mean, and they had enough on the front end of their lives, and they are not involved in anything. They are not having an opinion about anything. They're not voting about anything. They're not taking a position about anything. If you start talking about it, they want to know who cooked the chicken. I mean, it's that kind of personality who does not ever want to be in a fray ever again, now that they found this comfortable place. But simultaneously will benefit from the work of the people who will do the work. somewhere it seems that there is a balance that needs to be struck. And I think you really did talk about it there in your comments a minute ago. Rest is not a lifestyle, and neither is war. War is not a lifestyle, and neither is rest.
Yeah.
In some way, it seems from what I'm hearing you say that perhaps all of us need to hear that one cares for the other. We have to fight. We can't leave it all to someone else. But we cannot fight and not rest. We have to rest. Like the second day of the Pettus Bridge. The first day was the dogs and the guns and the rocks. That night, they went back and they got their stitches. They cared for each other's wounds. They changed clothes, right? Then they got back on the Pettus Bridge to face the same opponents, only to find that the opponents had softened immensely because they came back. They couldn't believe after all of that that they'd come back. Somehow or other, perhaps, Doctor, you can reflect with our folks who ran away, and they've been so away that they feel like it's all someone else's struggle. And they don't have to get involved, and they're so wonderful that they're going to succeed no matter how things turn out. I think somehow in there, how does self-care work both for the warrior on the front line and the person that's on the back waiting for the warrior to produce something for them?
Yes. So important. The difference between taking a break and breaking down and exiting, right? So we have to pace ourselves because it is ongoing. It's going to be a lifetime commitment. It's a lifetime of work. And recognizing, have I quit or am I restoring, right? Restoring and re-engaging. And to know that it is a myth that our silence will save us. You know, it is a strategy of racism and every form of oppression. It's really gaslighting, where if you name the oppression, you are called the problem. I just want to name how like masterful that is, like to keep people silent of like, well, I don't want to play the race card, or I don't want to seem like I'm sensitive, or I don't want to seem like I'm complaining. And so believing, and I will say it can protect you momentarily, right? That the focus goes on those who are the loudest. And so you can feel secure in that. But the ways in which this interlocking web of oppression works, it will tangle you up even in your silence. It will comfort you and your children, even if you have never protested. And, that's what Audre Lorde says. When we speak, we are afraid, but when we are silent, we are still afraid. So we might as well speak, knowing we were never meant to survive. And so for us to not fall into what's called the bystander effect, where if someone is attacking you and there's a large crowd around, you're less likely to get help because everybody thinks someone else will do it. Versus if someone's attacking you and there's one other person present, they know it's on them. Like, I have to try to do something to save this person. And so we have often, not taken the responsibility, but definitely, as you name, reap the benefit. And so it requires a self-reflection and interrogation of what are my values? And if I value these things, what am I willing to do, even when it's uncomfortable, because it's right?
Thank you for that. Bishop has found a way to get us to where we needed to be by asking you a couple of questions ago. And it's part 2, packing light, what to carry on the journey home. So you already talked about reparenting yourself. You already talked about emotional intelligence, community care, and self-care, building self-confidence, and spiritual practice. And so now part 3 is recovering from roadblocks on the journey home. And you go into a lot of things. You talk about mourning invisible losses. I want you to say more about that. But before we get there, healing from breakups and divorce, coping and healing from a toxic workplace, recovering from childhood trauma. Of course, the last thing is the first thing I started out with, resisting oppression. But talk to us a little bit about mourning invisible losses.
Yes. So there are the recognized, the acknowledged losses, which are usually the loss of a loved one. And, as a community, we have a whole grieving and mourning process, and the way community and family often shows up, which was difficult, I want to name, during the pandemic, when people couldn't physically gather, or when they had to limit the number of people who could attend a funeral. All of that we were innovative with these virtual services, but it was also painful for a lot of people to feel like they could not honor their loved one in the ways they would have wanted to. So there are, those kinds of losses that people usually identify. And then we also want to consider, what are the other losses we have had that a lot of people wouldn't know unless you talked about it, right? The emotional loss, you think about, for example, with experiences of oppression and trauma, what did that take from you, right? What did transphobia take from you? What did xenophobia take from you? What does ageism take from you? What did you lose as a result of that? Whether it was opportunity, whether that was confidence. What does ableism take from you? Because the assumptions people make about you, based on your physical or mental health, or based on the way your body is in this world. And so those things are often not acknowledged by others, and sometimes not acknowledged by us ourselves. And when they are, people often minimize it like it's not a big deal. I want to name this part of toxic spirituality, or some people call it toxic positivity. When people think to be a spiritual person, you can only talk about quote unquote positive emotions. So then when people say they're disappointed or hurt, others will respond, you should be grateful, right? You're upset that your parent died. You should be grateful. You had them as long as you had them. You're upset because this didn't happen. You should be grateful. Yes, you had a miscarriage, but you have this kid, so be grateful. So we find all kinds of ways to silence people's pain. And it makes the silencer more comfortable, because now you don't have to hear it, but the pain has just gone underground. And we learned this as a child with the common phrase, I heard it in my community, even in my family, which is telling children, fix your face, right? Fix your face.
Listen, you don't know how many times I heard that. Fix your face, Vanessa. Fix your face. And people say it to me now because they say I look mean.
Yeah, especially on the Zoom, right?
People have my face.
Yes. Yes. And so it's not a concern for the person's heart, right? It's not what's wrong. It's that I don't want to see it. And people will even explicitly say that to their kid. I don't want to see your disappointment. I don't want to see your bored. I don't want to see your anger. You should look grateful, happy, neutral, right? And then even I've seen in pulpits, preachers fussing at congregants because they don't look joyful enough. Like, people fought through depression to get to that pew. So let's just appreciate that they made it. But the preacher will say, y'all sitting on me, turn around and jump up and down and run a lap. And it's like, is this a sanctuary or a performance? Is it a forced performance to make you feel better, to make you believe your sermon was good? Or can I really show up as I am, which in the moment is in a place of lamentation? So we want to have space for the unrecognized losses.
There's one thing that came up for me, a passage that Bishop-elect Vanessa has heard me preach from before, but I grabbed a hold of something else the other day, Bishop-elect, about when Jesus left his own folks and his own land and ended up going to Syria, and essentially talking to the Syrophoenician woman, that passage. And she wanted healing to happen in her family. And Jesus turned to her and said, shall we give the children's bread to dogs? And she, in so many words, said back to him, bow, wow, wow. As long as I can leave here with my kid healed, I'm fine with that, right? And I kept thinking to myself, first of all, I have I have a sense of his humanity, and I think that there was much more of that happened that very few people wrote about. But I also have a sense that the reason that he left town is because he was tired of the people requiring him to do signs and wonders. And he got tired of it. There was a weariness that was associated when he left. He didn't leave for vacation. He left for escape. And he had an escape attitude when she came to him. If you understand what it is I'm trying to say. And it was I'd love for you to use it sometimes when you teach. I would love for you when you share with people that even Jesus got woe down. And when he got woe down, such that he had got hankty. That's the word. He turned hankty.
Yes.
He ran into somebody that was hanktier than he was. I want to just kind of put it out there. I also want to lift her up because when she opened that up in him, he went on to say in so many words that she was the element that made him understand the gospel was not just for him and his kind. Because up until that kind, it was all about Israel. It was all about his people. Now it was about Pentecost, if you know what I'm saying, that the blessing had reached out to this Syrian woman, this Syrophoenician woman, who got healing for her daughter. There was a certain universality that came from his authenticity in that moment. I love that, Bishop-elect Vanessa, because I think that in so many ways, that is where our universality, our ability to go beyond the closeness of our own clan and cliques, to reach out. Somebody has to break that open.
That's
And
so
she
good,
broke
Bishop Flunder.
open.
That's good.
She did that thing,
She
know.
did
And
do it. She did it.
got her little baby and went on her way. I don't see where she followed him another step. Nowhere else, because she got where she needed. She packed up her stuff and left. But she changed everything.
She changed everything
That day because she didn't care about his truth. She didn't choke. She didn't go away and say, Jesus said that no, so this just no. She said, you're going to heal my baby today. Essentially, that's
basically.
what I came here for.
Right.
That's what I'm going to leave here with. I don't care if you are Jesus of Nazareth. Let me tell you how this is going to happen today. I want to put that out there as an affirmation.
Yes.
That we need to see the strength that God has put in us when we allow ourselves to be jumped up and down, like you said a minute ago, by a preacher or a leader or a denomination or a politician or whatever it is that is trying to get their cookies at our expense, whatever those cookies are. There's something very powerful in that moment. So you brought the preacher part of me, and I give you ecclesial permission to use it wherever you want to. So there you go.
Oh, thank you. Yes.
Dr. Thema, we have questions.
Okay.
Well, I want to let the audience know that we are with Dr. Thema Bryant, and Dr. Thema Bryant has a wonderful book out called Homecoming. You should get this book. This book is powerful. It's about overcoming fear and trauma to reclaim your whole authentic self. It's a book that you want to read, that I took great joy in reading. If you want to get the book, type hashtag Beyond the Gatekeepers. Type hashtag Beyond the Gatekeepers. If you really want to get the book, because we only giving away one book today, you want to go buy it. And you want to purchase it from Amazon, and you want to gift it to somebody because it is a true gift that somebody might have the opportunity to read this book. We have some questions from the audience, and if you know that you have a question, please type the word question first so that we can know that this is something that you want us to ask. And so here goes. What is your response to the current phenomenon with the desire to finally grasp the issue of mental illness and its present danger to social psychology?
Yes. So I am pleased that so many more people, especially within our communities and faith communities and Black community, are more aware of mental health. And as I said, when I was running last year for president-elect for the American Psychological Association, people who ran in prior years, a big part of their platform was, how do we convince the public that we have something important to offer? And that's not the time we're in now, right? People are very much aware and recognizing the need, and asking for the services and the support. And there are, still barriers and stigma for us to address. But I am so glad to say I do see the shifting, and that there remains those strongholds within the church of needing to educate people. I think, as Bishop was saying earlier, that, being saved or a member in good standing or a tither and all of these things does not mean you'll never face major depression or bipolar disorder or schizophrenia or addiction. I think a lot of times the way the church framed it was that was for people out there, right? People in here have the Lord, so they don't have those issues. And it's not true. So our faith does not make us immune to the realities of mental illness. And so many of us know that intimately, if not from our own experience, from our family, from our friends, from our loved ones. And it's important that we push back on that stigma and name that you can have faith and still face mental health challenges.
Absolutely. We need to destigmatize having any kind of mental health challenges. And we also need to be able to talk about it in church. You know what I mean? Not just during the month of May or whatever month it is supposed to be, but all the time, because people are going through something all the time. Here is a question by Pastor Jacqueline Tyler. Now that Roe versus Wade is overturned, now that Roe is overturned, many of these laws are devoid of spiritual support. How can we as ministers offer support to women who will be victimized by these laws?
Yes. So it is important that we first identify ourselves to be actual sanctuary, because there is often this monopoly on who Jesus belongs to, and that messaging in a number of churches was one of celebration, right? So some people who claim to carry the mantle of Christ were very much celebrating this shift. And so it is for us not to be silent about where we stand, so that people can know that we are even a resource if we are, and to speak that. So, this past Sunday was an important time for people to integrate it into their services. And if you didn't, it's not too late. There's another Sunday coming up. And so to name the realities and challenges in our prayer, in our litany, in our sermon, when we think about reclaiming our bodies and our voice. And so recognizing that we do not belong to the government, that we are sacred beings, that we are divine, holy beings. And I started last Sunday sermon with reading from Beloved, right? A sermon on this here flesh, right? Celebrating and holding sacred this flesh. And so we have to do that. And then I would also say there's an African proverb that says, when you pray, move your feet. So along with offering emotional or spiritual support, for us to also look at ways to support with our resources, with space provision, with having the referrals and the networks of where people can go, so that along with prayers, we're giving them the bread, the provision for their safety.
Bishop Flunder, did you want to add anything to that?
I do believe that authentic, how can I say this? One of the things that I think is a great contribution that church makes on the flip side of this is what I call authentic healing catharsis. Because there are times that we do need to wail and to mourn. But I think that we have to remove the power dynamic that somehow suggests that wailing is just for this group of people among us, because we all think they need to wail, if you understand what I mean. But I think that there is a wailing that needs to go up in some ways from all of us for the abuse of us, and even where we have been complicit in the abuse of us. We talked about our women, we talk about our children, we talk about the unique and especially abled people among us. We talk about the poor when we talk about those that perhaps have been overlooked and diminished in some way. But I think that that is where our catharsis should show up. That it shouldn't be just jumping people around, but what it should be is the opportunity for us to, however, have catharsis. So everybody needs some good old Pentecostal songs riding through here. I think I think we need to clap on the 2 and the 4 and bring out the tambourines and the drums and whatever we have to do to remember our heritage as people of the continent, but also to get our rhythm. Find our rhythm. There's too many people got us clapping on the 1 and the 3.
Come on.
And we need to remember the 2 and the 4 in the spiritual sense. Essentially, we need to find our rhythm, our rush hour rhythm, find our rhythm and find our dance, find our sound, and repeat the chorus as many doggone times as we need to until it seeps all the way again in our spirit. And that catharsis is also a catharsis around the table of good food, or a catharsis around some good drinks, a catharsis around some storytelling, so that we can be feeding one another and helping each other to come back to life and pushing back against this isolation and separation. So if we did come in the room believing differently, let's find the connecting points. Nothing can do that for me like music. When all else fails, I can find me a song. And I surely love it when I look around the room and 15 to 20 other people know it. And they know a couple of verses and everything. And we can just go where we need to go and get healed in that moment. I encourage us, seize catharsis. Grab a hold to opportunities to put your whole self, how can I say, undress your soul and bring it naked.
That's good.
And let's get connected there and find healing. I hear you, doctor. I understand what you're saying. And it's giving me church talk. So that's a good thing.
I love it. And as you were talking, it reminded me of when I was in seminary, we had a class on ministry during times of crisis. And the professor said, every church now has a praise team, but what we need is a lamentation team.
Come on now.
I said, that's it, the wail, the wail. Let's create space for that. Yes.
Yeah. That's good. Here's another question by Dr. Bummy Anderson. Why do you think the Black church has not embraced mental health, but see prayer as the only way?
Yes. So I want to put it on both, on 2 things. One is lack of experience and exposure. A lot of people are just repeating what was told to them, right? So they never had it. And you'll have people in the pulpit who will say that. I heard a minister who was preaching and he said, I never had any sessions and look at me. And I thought, look at you, right? Yeah, look at you, sir. So sometimes we're glorying in that because we have been explicitly taught. Some people have been forbidden. I've had clients who have said to me, my pastor said I shouldn't be coming here. I need to walk in my healing because he already prayed for me. So some people have been discouraged directly because that was like passed down. And then I do want to name, so that we don't just put it on our community, that there have been faults in the mental health field. So there are mental health professionals who are not respectful of faith, who are not respectful and compassionate toward our community. So some people have gone and had bad experiences and then reported that back. Some people have the association with the only thing that therapists do is take children from their families. So that's, that's their experience. So that's kind of all that they have heard about it. And so there is a need for more cultural, racial, religious awareness and training on the part of mental health professionals, and a need for the destigmatizing within our communities.
That was excellent. Thank you for that. And then here's the last question that we have. It says, how do we get the Black church to recognize the extreme oppression we continuously experience is Christian-based?
Yes. So this is an important point, because I think around the issue of faith and religion, you often have these two extremes. People who have only experienced it as oppressive and harmful and are ready to throw the whole thing out because it's, patriarchal, it's this, it's that, it's homophobic, get rid of the whole thing. And then there are people for whom it's been a wonderful experience, and they don't create the psychological space for the recognition that it has also been used to do great harm. And both things exist. That it has, for some people, literally saved their lives, that the reason why they're still here is because of their faith. And then other people have had experiences where they were dismantled in places of faith. And so we want to have the spiritual and emotional maturity to be able to honor the truth that people have experienced both.
Yes, ma'am.
May I say, it is also how we see the lens that we have when we go to the book, when we go to the multiple volumes of books put together to be called the book. Let's put it that way. When we already have glasses that are glasses of warrior, glasses of law, legalisms, glasses of supremacy, we will find the texts that strengthen those things. But remember, we're visiting those realities on the text. We have already decided those things. If we enter the text with glasses of joy and love and peace, we will find joy, love, and peace in the same text. I think that, like the writer of Hebrews, I think that first we have to look for the person and understanding and the way of God and good, and let that be written on tablets of flesh. Then what we can do is we can go back to the book and we can know the difference between what is in there to bless you and what is in there to suggest that you never take this path. Because it is in there. It's not always a signal that God wants you to do it. It's in there, some of it to show you what the hell to never do, ever, because you can see how this ended up for these people. But if we don't know or come to know an understanding of God, what does the Lord require? But that we do justice, that we love mercy, and we walk humbly, then your lens will look to see those things if you really believe that is what God requires. Now, if you want some war, you want some bloodshed, you want some taking over just because of your bloodline and all of that supremacy, we got a lot of it in the book. There's plenty in the book. And the people that want those things to be God will quote those passages. I have said it a zillion times and I'll keep saying it. A literal reading of the text was on the side of the slaveholder and not on the side of the slave. It's in there. You don't have to wonder about it. It's not even obtuse. Slaves obey your masters. It's not obtuse. That's very clear, very precise. They read it and they quoted it because they wanted slaves. Let's just be real clear about that. But they didn't also read the huge volumes of liberation. and peace and love and equality. So I would say to anyone and everyone, it depends on your lenses. If I can go a little further, I would say get your lenses first and then go back and read. Get the lenses that come from the heart of God. Start there and then go back and read the text through the lenses of what God requires. What God requires. That's my flunderism for the evening.
Amen.
Amen is right. So, Dr. Thema, we have come to the end of the night. I still want to encourage people to purchase the book on Amazon. And so I want you to do that. We've placed in all the links everywhere on how to purchase the book. But we also want to invite you all that want to participate in the book drawing on tonight to make sure that the book giveaway, make sure that you type the hashtag Beyond the Gatekeepers, all one word, no spaces, so that you can make sure your name is entered in. Dr. Thema, I want to, because Bishop says she has given her last remark, that's our flunderism for tonight. I want to let you say something. What is the thing that you want the people to really, really know about homecoming, or anything that you want them to really, really know?
I want those who are gathered to know that the trauma and stress of your life affected you, but it doesn't define you, that you are worthy. You are worthy of breath. You are worthy of rest. You are worthy of justice. You are worthy of love. You are worthy of spaces where you are seen, valued, appreciated, and celebrated. And live your life knowing it down in your bones.
That's absolutely beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. We appreciate you so much for your yes. And I appreciate, I just was like, I'm going to keep asking. I'm going to try to track her down. And so I'm so grateful that I wasn't even, I didn't even have your email address. I was on LinkedIn and I said, boom, I'm going to send this message and she's going to answer me. And
That's
you did.
right.
I'm
And here
so
we
grateful
are.
for that. And here we are. So I am
You
grateful
done
for
good.
that.
You done good,
Yeah.
Bishop Elect Vanessa.
Yes.
Let's
Thank
hold on
you.
to her. Let's
Very
bring her to
powerful.
something before very long.
Indeed, indeed. I'm gonna make sure I email you to get your contact information, more of it at least. But we're grateful tonight. This has been a blessing. We know what what's happening in the world, even right now, and the direction it looks like it's headed in. But I believe that this book helps us to ground ourselves and to look forward, right? And so we don't have to drown in everything that's happening around us. And so I'm grateful for homecoming. Thank you so much again. And so to our audience tonight, we thank you for joining us. We're grateful for you. We want to give you a few announcements, and then we want to do the book giveaway. Bishop Flunder is going to do the first announcement for us.
God bless all of you who are with us this evening. We are so, 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 so blessed to have been blessed by Dr. Thema tonight. And I want to encourage you, if Gatekeepers has helped you, has blessed you, has stimulated your thinking, stimulated conversations with those who are a part of your life, be a blessing to the Gatekeepers. Help us to continue to grow and to expand our reach. And to do that, we need your support. Support our broadcast by sending a donation via Cash App to $TFAM Annual, TFAMANNUAL, or to PayPal at www.paypal.me/TFAMJustice. Now, if this is your first time, you've heard us make this announcement over and over again, do something special tonight and be a blessing. Be a blessing. If you've been blessed, be a blessing so that we can continue to grow and expand. God bless you is my prayer.
Save the date, July 12th through the 16th. Have We Got Good Religion? TFAM Leadership Conference 2022. Our presiding bishop is inviting you to come to be in Arizona, Phoenix, Arizona with us. Arizona Biltmore Resort, Frank Lloyd Wright property in Phoenix, Arizona. If you need to register, you may do so Regular registration ends July 1st. It is $125. On-site registration is $150. You can go to our website to find out all the information about the conference. You can go to www.bit.ly/TFAM Conference 2022. You'll find more information, or you can go to www.radicallyinclusive.com and you can find out more information about the conference. Thank you. Thank you, Dominic. Thank you, Bullet in Flight Radio. You will find information for Bullet in Flight Radio online, and you can also find Beyond the Gatekeepers on Bullet in Flight Radio. And so if you are looking to purchase property, please look up Antonio Mattier, the lifestyle realtor. Antonio is saying donate to your church, give to your church while accomplishing your goal of home ownership. Lifestyle Global Properties will donate 10% of the commission earned from your real estate transaction to your choice of COR, which stands for City of Refuge, or TFAM, which stands for the Fellowship of Affirming Ministries, in your name when you utilize their brokerage to purchase or sell a property, residential or commercial, in California or Georgia. So we want to make sure that if you need more information on what we just said, that you go to email him at antonio@antoniomattier.com, or you can go to his website at www.antoniomattier.com. Thank you so much, Lifestyle Global Properties. And we have RIM Virtual Experience, TNT Tuesday Night Talks, RIM Fellowship United Church of Christ, where their senior pastor is Bishop-elect Sonia E. Williams, and she and they are inviting you to join them every Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for everyday real, relevant, Bible-led conversations. If you're looking to find out more about the church, you can visit their website at www.rimatlanta.org, and you can also find them on Facebook at RIM Fellowship UCC, on IG at RIM Fellowship, and on YouTube at RIM Fellowship UCC. Thank you, Bishop-elect Sonia, for your continued support. We have the Healing Place Apothecary. This is a business that's owned and operated and founded by Nubian Flunder. She is the daughter of our presiding bishop. You can go to her website at www.thp, which stands for the Healing Place Apothecary.com. That's www.thp, as in Paul, apothecary.com, to find out more about her skincare products. Please make sure that you support Black businesses. We have Sky Michelle Teas and Things. www.skymichelle.com is the website where the kid is the boss. And she has wonderful new t-shirts out. Normalize Jesus in Therapy. That's a new t-shirt she has. Let us be saved and sane. That's what the t-shirt says. You can go to the website and see it. She has another one called Jesus Coffee Therapy Repeat. So you all want to check out these new t-shirts that she has online. Unapologetically Dope Black Clergy, or Unapologetically Dope Black Minister, whatever you want to name it. And then we have another one that's called Let's Get Loud. And on the back is hashtag equal rights, hashtag human rights. It's a bunch of hashtags. Hashtag Black Lives Matter. Hashtags trample the patriarchy. Awesome shirts. Support this little girl. Support her business. Follow her on her Facebook page or her Instagram page at I Am Sky Michelle. Thank you so much. Support Black businesses. And we have Inspire. This is a new show that our technical director / producer, Susan A. Webley, is hosting on Saturday mornings. And this particular Saturday morning, July 2nd, Her guest will be Dr. Gloria Pope. She's the founder of Black Girl Everything, LLC, and the author of Hero, Memoirs of Infertility, highlighting BIPOC entrepreneurs, influencers, and creatives on a mission to change their communities and the world. Support Kara Solutions by supporting this particular show on Saturday mornings at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard, 9 a.m. Central, 7 a.m. Pacific. Advertise with Beyond the Gatekeepers. This is so wonderful. If you want to advertise with us, you can please email us at beyondthegatekeepersshow@gmail.com. That's beyondthegatekeepersshow@gmail.com. Once again, thank you for your support. We want to raffle off this book, make sure we have this book drawing tonight. And so we know that you have already put hashtag Beyond the Gatekeepers. It's all one word. And so here is your chance to win tonight. And tonight our winner is Pastor Dawn. And so, Pastor Dawn, we ask that you go to the Beyond the Gatekeepers page. Make sure that you go to our inbox, messenger us your full name and address. We will get that information out so that you can get your book. Thank you so much for supporting Beyond the Gatekeepers. Pastor Dawn is the winner of the new book, Homecoming by Dr. Thema Bryant. Listen, thank you for joining us on tonight. We're grateful for your presence as always. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. We're loving you. We appreciate your support on a weekly basis. We say God bless you, and we look forward to seeing you again. Thank you.